These files were never meant to be public, but someone reopened them. This is the Dark Bureau. In a world where privacy is currency and data is power, the digital sphere has quietly become the modern battleground for corporate supremacy. Gone are the days when private detectives lingered in alleys, trailing briefcases and whispers. Today's surveillance agents slip soundlessly into inboxes and shared drives, equipped not with binoculars, but with lines of code, blending seamlessly into the ordinary workflow of global business. An innocuous email sent from an open-plan office high above the city, a spreadsheet transferred between multinational branches. Every routine interaction can mask an unseen intrusion. The individuals responsible aren't relegated to the shadows. Their tools and deals are crafted in daylight, clad in the neutral branding of enterprise software. Major multinational corporations are no longer just buying information. They're acquiring digital weapons. Weaponized code, engineered to gain clandestine access, observe competitors or partners in real time, and extract priceless data, is available to those with the budget and the plausible deniability to match. These are marketed as risk management or network monitoring solutions. But buried beneath the paperwork lies a complex, lucrative market for commercial digital espionage, where the only limit is the imagination of the client and the skill of the coder for hire. Peel back the standard legal contracts and marketing pamphlets, and the true scope comes into focus. Transactions that look like ordinary cybersecurity arrangements, software licenses, technical consulting, managed services agreements often veil the acquisition of powerful surveillance platforms previously available only to state actors in the intelligence community. The implications of this shift reverberate across continents. In high-rise boardrooms in New York, Frankfurt, Dubai, and beyond, the relentless drive for competitive advantage is eroding traditional ethical boundaries. The regulatory framework, fragmented and lagging, struggles to keep pace with innovation born from demand. When defence and offence become indistinguishable, the market for digital espionage tools transcends the reach of individual national laws, and accountability fades into abstraction. This world is not populated by criminals operating from remote basements, but by smartly dressed professionals, brokers, sales engineers, procurement consultants, whose expertise lies as much in navigating legal and financial grey zones as in technology itself. Deals are inked at international expos, where vendors pitch to clients in plain sight, speaking in careful abstractions. Purchase orders, invoice line items, and software manifests are dense with euphemism. Remote administration, lawful access, network health. But investigation teams compiling dossiers from leaks, whistleblower testimony, and rare unsealed court documents find evidence of intent layered beneath corporate subterfuge. Each new trace reveals greater complexity. Shell companies obscure true beneficiaries. Intermediaries handle procurement to create legal distance. And regulatory arbitrage exploits the differences between overlapping compliance regimes. The result is a robust, multi-jurisdictional industry engineered for opacity and plausible deniability. A single thread, perhaps a flagged test license or a misplaced technical manual, can unravel the path from a 5-minute software demo at a European trade show to a covert installation on a server owned by a major telecom in the Gulf. Each transaction leaves only faint footprints: 2 emails, an encrypted chat, a funds transfer routed through a tax haven, and a remote login session using generic credentials. Each action is obscured within the cloud of ordinary business administration, granting unprecedented and largely invisible power. The affected data can include anything from keystroke logs and voice calls to real-time video feeds and confidential legal documents. The underlying architecture of this commercial intelligence ecosystem is both modular and evolutionarily efficient, so fragmented that no single entity bears, nor is held responsible for, the full weight of consequence. While public corporate statements pledge compliance with all relevant due diligence protocols and transparency practices, true enforcement is rare. Breaches and abuses rarely come to light except in the aftermath of spectacular failures, a glimpse provided only by law enforcement action, regulatory review, or courageous whistleblowing. The web stretches not only across corporate giants, but also through the ecosystem of private investigators, business intelligence consultants, and equity firms, many of whom serve willingly or unwittingly as fronts for digital espionage procurement. Consultants and intermediary firms facilitate transactions, distance client companies from the source of the code, and find new regulatory arbitrage opportunities. In documented cases, surveillance capabilities are rebadged and resold, their provenance obscured through a series of shell companies. Forensic analysis sometimes uncovers the same exploit chains, vulnerabilities and attack sequences, repeated across tools with different brand names and vendor logos. A tech park office in North America might serve as a holding company for assets and intellectual property used on 3 continents, all connected by secure chat channels and flagged invoices that are carefully crafted to avoid triggering compliance mechanisms. Here, value is measured not just in dollars, but in leaked proprietary data, product designs, negotiations, intellectual property, and sensitive merger discussions, which flow through private data brokers to new clients or adversaries. At the industry's core is a sea change. Abilities once reserved for national security services have mainstreamed. Commercial spyware and surveillance platforms today are so sophisticated that a mid-sized regional player can deploy capabilities that rival the intelligence agencies of just a decade prior. The torrent of new buyers, companies outside the traditional security sector, has spurred rapid innovation. Toolkits now offer self-service dashboards, adjustable access levels, and on-demand reporting, all wrapped in interfaces designed for non-specialists. Leaks and investigations have exposed sample dashboards left unsecured online, shared utility accounts for testing, and user manuals that read like instruction books for digital break-ins. Competition among vendors means not only continual technical improvement, but also a race to stay one step ahead of regulators and auditors. Structural analysis of this market reveals an industry in flux, where investigators rarely find direct evidence. Instead, they trace chains of subtle clues, a time-stamped dashboard update, network traffic spikes, or unanticipated requests to technical support desks. Key breakthroughs often emerge through rare compliance audits, court-ordered raids, or whistleblowers who jeopardize their careers and anonymity to expose abuses. In most instances, burden of proof is overwhelming. Even when litigation proceeds, cases often settle before trial or are mired in arbitration, ensuring that the technical details of abuse remain buried. The market survives not just because of active concealment, but because its institutional environment rewards ambiguity and adaptation. Regulatory responses, where they exist, are patchwork. Export controls, privacy directives, and data residency rules vary dramatically from country to country, creating layer upon layer of bureaucracy and opportunity for exploitation. The European Union's stringent data privacy regime has forced many vendors to relocate or funnel sales through foreign proxies and local subsidiaries, effectively shielding primary actors from direct legal exposure. Meanwhile, regulatory capture is real and documented. In other jurisdictions, industrial lobbyists and trade groups work to narrow the scope of prohibitive statutes or influence regulatory guidance, often drafting suggested language for overworked policymakers. Vendors and buyers have developed a calculated tolerance for risk. They know that only the most egregious violations, those that spur public outrage or rare investigative journalism, will trigger new enforcement or reputational fallout. Most incidents are quietly handled internally through settlements or confidential reviews. Against this shifting regulatory canvas, a more complex institutional adaptation unfolds. Some major corporations now establish internal surveillance teams, primarily staffed by former intelligence community professionals. These in-house units blur the lines between corporate security and offensive intelligence gathering, extending not only to monitoring competitors, but often to surveilling their own workforce. Documentation and supply contracts reveal deployments targeting not just outside threats, but also whistleblowers, journalists, labour organisers, and even rival executives inside the company, using technology acquired through legal loopholes. Liability is obfuscated by layers of outsourced compliance reviews and insurance policies, enabling corporations to maintain plausible deniability even as risk pools and actuarial models adjust quietly behind the scenes. When breaches do occur and attract public attention, executive teams typically respond with internal inquiries and rapid containment protocols, resulting in minimal substantive change but significant reputational damage that can reverberate through the industry. The full scale of the marketplace remains deliberately obscure. Journalists and investigative units face steep barriers, non-disclosure agreements, encrypted communication channels, the physical inaccessibility of overseas data centres, and frequent legal threats. What surfaces in the public domain is the rare exception. Those leaks that evade digital containment, or those legal confrontations that withstand immense pressure to settle out of public view. Trade shows and global security expos operate as de facto neutral ground, hosting buyers and sellers for closed-door demos that leave behind as little trace as possible. An environmental scan, a sample dashboard, a single ISO certificate. Surveillance vendors have demonstrated a sophisticated ability to sidestep or reinterpret regulation, exploiting statutory loopholes, redefining categories to fit the language of compliance, or migrating operations to friendlier jurisdictions whenever risks escalate. The consequences reach far beyond the companies directly involved. The destabilizing effect of pervasive surveillance transforms entire industries. Trust, once the foundation of commercial partnership, is devalued as information security becomes an arms race. Sectors tied to pharmaceuticals, technology, finance, and energy see the lines between ally and adversary blurred, making proprietary data as easily traded as physical commodities. A single breach, if timed for maximum disruption, can alter the price of an acquisition, unravel a merger, or trigger chaos in financial markets. In the wake of high-profile exposures, legal systems creak under the weight of data they are ill-equipped to understand or police, and regulatory bodies often struggle to frame new laws before vendors can adapt anew. Even coordinated international efforts, consortium lawsuits, industry-wide audits, and sweeping legislative reviews rarely result in meaningful contraction. Instead, the contours of the marketplace simply shift. Ultimately, the most profound vulnerability in this entire industry remains human. Many breaches and exposures occur not through technological superweapons, but due to simple mistakes. An unpatched server hurriedly deployed, a staff member discussing sensitive matters on an insecure line, or a technical support response that inadvertently reveals too much. Each such breach is exploited briefly before the market rapidly adapts, adjusting standard operating procedures, reinforcing compartmentalization, and rerouting procurement and deployment. The invisibility that protects the industry is also its primary weakness. Every reveal, however fleeting, sharpens the resolve of those seeking accountability and offers a roadmap for regulators and investigators to follow, however circuitous. As one case ends and another begins, the scale of the challenge becomes clear. Strengthening oversight will require global cooperation on an unprecedented level, challenging embedded industry interests, closing legal loopholes that have existed for decades, and restructuring the incentives that currently sustain the trade in commercial surveillance. Individual prosecutions are insufficient. What's essential is lasting institutional reform, cross-border transparency, and the political will to confront the industry's disincentives for openness. Until international norms rise to meet the scope of the problem, the market for surveillance tools, pixels, and silence alike remains open, moving unseen beneath the facade of global business, powering decisions and shaping markets, all but invisible unless you know precisely where to look.